All right, let's get started. Arc, Temp, you guys good to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. We are recording this, and so for anybody that misses the whole thing or portions of it, we'll post it at a later time. I'm really honored to have Arc Dev and Temp Tranquil with us today, the founders of NFT Worlds. This is one of the hottest projects across both the NFT and metaverse space right now, and I can only imagine how busy these guys are. And it's just a privilege to be able to host these spaces and ask them some questions. Before we get started, I wanted to take 1 minute and express why I've personally been so passionate about NFT Worlds. Anyone who follows me on Twitter is probably more than aware of this, but I bought my first world about 4 months ago at 0.180. But if I'm being really honest with myself, it was just a flyer at the time. I thought the project looked interesting, but I didn't take time to understand it or to research it. And it was only a few weeks ago that I decided to really dig in, and I read the documentation. And after getting tentatively excited and even buying a few more, I scheduled a call with Temp. And that was when it hit me like a ton of bricks. The accessibility of these worlds, both to access them via platforms like Xbox and PS5 and virtual reality, both that as well as to build on them using the Minecraft engine. It's just unparalleled. The size of the world compared to other metaverse options is almost uncomprehendable. The connectivity of NFT Worlds as a platform to link experiences truly creates an open metaverse, and having a standardized economy based on world token with gasless transfers, it all felt almost too good to be true. And so, from an investment perspective, I hold 13 worlds myself. I wish I had more, but I'm extremely bullish on the future for all of this. So much so that many of you might have seen me announce yesterday that I'm working with Blockchain Brown now on building out our own metaverse with master plan real estate communities called White Sands on top of NFT Worlds as a platform. And I'm just really excited and honored again to have ArcDev and Temp Tranquil here with us today. So, with that said, in terms of format, I've prepared 11 questions to ask these guys, things that folks have been asking me over and over and over again, almost barraging me with for the last couple of weeks that I've been tweeting heavily about NFT Worlds. And then, of course, we will save some time at the end for AMA from the broader community. So, with all of that said, let's dig in. Arc, Temp, you guys ready?
Yeah, thanks for hosting us. We're happy to be here.
All right. So, first question. You guys have built a gasless system for a transferring world. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that actually works? You know, who's paying for validation on the blockchain, and why is this possible?
Yeah, I can touch on that one. So there is something called ERC 2771. It's an implementation, and it was brought about for the need for Ethereum contracts to accept calls from externally owned accounts that may not have enough ETH to pay gas. And it's basically a way that allows you to accomplish something through a technical term called meta transactions that basically if you want to push a transaction through on the network, you're the transaction signer, and an untrusted party untrusted meaning you don't necessarily want to give them like private key or something that is secure related to your externally owned wallet. That untrusted party can take your signed transaction and push it through on the network on your behalf and cover the gas cost. So the way the gasless transactions work is actually because we operate on the Polygon network, the gas fees are really low to start, but it's not about saving people fees that we made gasless transactions. It's about reducing the friction of having to have gas in the first place, because crypto gamers aren't going to want to deal with exchanges in order to get Matic to push transactions through. It's just too much friction, and it makes like a new player in a game experience just probably have a very bad time. And so we wanted to get rid of that altogether. How this works is when I go to send World Token through the pay page on the NFTworlds.com website or via pay in game in the future, my wallet is basically signing the transaction behind the scenes, i.e., I want to transfer some of my world. That transaction is then set to our relaying node network. And that node network is just it's a distribution of many wallets that are spun up and spun down on the fly across many network nodes in order to push transactions through at whatever scale in real time it needs to be, i.e. if we're doing 100 transactions per second or 1,000 transactions per second, we can scale the wallets up or down to have, and this is probably technical for those of you who may not understand, so I'm sorry, I'm trying to give as much detail though, but you have to have enough wallets with the nonces matching up on each block in order to push that many transactions through per block and get the throughput that you need for that kind of volume. And so our nodes are covering the gas, and they're pushing the transactions through that you sign. And in exchange, there's a small fee that's taken in world token from you sending that world. So right now, that fee is anytime you send a gasless world transfer, it's 0.1 world deducted from the receiver's end, similar to like a credit card fee. The recipient is the one who's actually covering the cost of that fee. So if you were to send me 10 world, I would actually be receiving 9.9, and that 0.1 would then be taken by the gasless node that covered the gas. And in a swap pool behind the scenes, it would be converting world back to Matic in order to maintain a balance to cover transaction fees.
It's really just kind of amazing what you guys have produced here. You're absolutely right that the friction of just paying anything and having it to go through the network is a major hurdle for a variety of applications for blockchain and for NFTs, and especially when it gets into things like gaming, where somebody that's on their Xbox wanting to make a transaction inside of an NFT world experience. It's just a really incredible thing to be able to do it without some of the hurdles that we traditionally are all used to dealing with. Well, thank you for sharing that information. I think that was great. Next question that I have for you guys. So technically, anyone can create a world in Minecraft. You can upload it to a server. You can invite dozens or even hundreds of people to engage with it. Now, you've also announced that World is going to be usable by any Minecraft experience, even if it's not on NFT Worlds. And so what are the main reasons why somebody would use an NFT World to host their experience instead of just creating something in Minecraft and then uploading it to one of the many popular Minecraft servers?
Yeah, good question. So at the base layer, like to start with NFT Worlds, each world starts as a Minecraft seed. Like from the standpoint of building each layer for the ecosystem, we have to start at the bottom with the actual world itself. That's something, sure, you can get in any Minecraft. Like you can just get it from Minecraft, a seed, and build a world. The things that we bring to the table are the glue, the economies, and the interconnected ecosystems, and the other systems for transacting on top that you get access to by owning an NFT world. The world token itself, because it is an ERC20 token, anyone can technically use it for an implementation of their choice. However, the pieces that you get in total with an NFT world are you get access to transaction layers, you get access to the ability to use our gasless network in the context of payments across NFT worlds in a way that can be tracked back through a dashboard in the future for NFT worlds. You get the interconnected network effects of being on the play page, being in the launcher, being able to create the portals between other worlds, which otherwise we wouldn't have possible. So if you want to, for example, have cross-community play, you want to have, say, your 3, 4, 5 worlds interconnected with a partner set of worlds that are being made for different communities. That's something an NFT world gives you access to. There's layers coming soon where by owning an NFT world, you get access to gasless minting of NFTs on Polygon. And so what this is if, in example, you are playing in an NFT world as a player, and you do something that earns you some unique item, and the server implementation for that world sets it up where your ownership of that unique item is represented by an NFT that it mints on the fly when you accomplish something. That is something that only worlds can also do for that layer. And that means that you do something, it gets minted to your wallet address that's set for your account. That NFT is then tradable on a secondary market that's going to come for items across all NFT worlds. It gives more exposure to those NFTs that are spun up for your world itself. And there's other pieces as well that we have coming, but those are probably the most immediate layers. I think in general, like what an NFT world gets you that Minecraft does not is access to all of these technical layers that are making as frictionless of a metaverse experience as possible for players from all aspects.
And if I can add on to that, when I talk with clients and they ask me the similar question, the first thing I always say is we don't sell Minecraft worlds. The NFT isn't buying ownership of a Minecraft world. It's a ticket into the NFT world's ecosystem, and the world that you use within that ecosystem is how the visuals of the NFT corresponds to it.
It makes a lot of sense. And every time I hear you guys give these kind of answers, I personally get more and more excited. I hadn't even fully processed the implications of the live minting on Polygon when you take actions inside of a game ecosystem. It's really just pretty fantastic. All right, well, let's keep going. So the accessibility of Minecraft is a big part of the draw for NFT Worlds. And, I even mentioned it above. It's one of the things that got me most excited is that you can build on these worlds using Minecraft's engine and their already pre-built tools that they've invested so much time and money into, both pre and post acquisition. But what is your relationship with Microsoft and the Minecraft teams? And what control, if any, do they have on the future of NFT Worlds given the reliance on their tech?
Yeah, I'll answer this one. Yeah, it's a great question, and there's a lot of strategies that we have for like what would happen if we really did get rugged by Microsoft. Like, what would be our plan Bs? But I think this question pertains more to like what's our current relationship with Microsoft, and we do work pretty closely with their IP enforcement team. They're in our Discord constantly, kind of reviewing our chat, and we have meetings with them and things like that. And we do our best to like abide by their EULA and stuff, but they know that it's a decentralized landscape, and I think they would prefer that we do it and keep communication and contact with them and do it the right way versus someone just who's going to remain anonymous doing the same thing that they have absolutely no control over. So I think they're just kind of watching us from the sidelines. It's not like a formal green light, but I think in their eyes, we're the best case scenario for someone using their product with a blockchain fashion. Using it as a tool.
One other thing too, like I know people internally at Microsoft in relatively high up spaces. There's a ethos there where their internal goal from a third-party developer side is to be the most developer-friendly company in the world. And if you look at Minecraft as not a game, but as a platform, and developers for the last 10 years have been making mods, ecosystem things, and games on top of it, not like metaverse, crypto, blockchain stuff necessarily yet, but it's a development platform. And if you go and try and pull a project that is trying to use one of your projects as a development platform that's been used by many other developers for different use cases over the last decade, it's kind of an anti-ethos approach. So I really don't think, from everything we know at this point, the dialogues we have in the communication, that is something, it's not something we're concerned about internally, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, look, it makes a lot of sense to me. Some people may or may not know, but I was founder and CEO of a software company that Microsoft acquired in 2015, and I spent several years working at the mothership out in Seattle as their director of gamification. And look, I don't speak on behalf of Microsoft. It's been a long time since I worked there, but I can absolutely understand why culturally it would make a lot more sense for them to enable you guys to do this in a way where they have some say and some control than to nip it in the bud in a similar way to say like what Nintendo tends to do with third-party development. The fact is that what you guys are doing is driving a lot of attention and candidly revenue towards Minecraft. I personally had never installed Minecraft in my life, and yet in the last couple of weeks, I bought Minecraft Java Edition. I installed it on my Xbox. I'm going to be installing it on my VR headset, and so it's not lost on me, at least, that having what you guys have built on the foundational engine of Minecraft, it drives a lot of value for Microsoft as long as it's done in a way that you guys have good coordination with their teams, and it sounds like you've got great relationships there.
Yeah, and especially a lot of the visions of those brands are community driven, and the Minecraft community is very tight knit and sensitive to what happens. So if we release our server network and we get this large player base where they're playing on the NFT Worlds and they really are having a great experience, that's going to give us a lot of firepower to say, you know, what we're doing is actually a net positive for you.
Yeah, it's called leverage.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, well, let's move on. So a large portion of the total supply of World Token is allocated into your Faucet, or your grant program, as I've been calling it. And you've talked a little bit about how this is going to be used to incentivize projects and developers, but can you dive into a little more detail on this and the help that you're going to really be offering to folks that are building on these worlds and playing in these worlds, and what's really at stake putting this much World Token into that use case?
Yeah, I can touch on that one. So ultimately, like, we have 50% of the World Token Reserve set up to be distributed through this play to earn faucet and incentives over a timeline of roughly 5 years. The goal, and this is something that any metaverse ecosystem or metaverse game has to solve, is the goal over those 5 years is to create a self-running sort of flywheel economic ecosystem in game between all these interconnected worlds, such that the playability is enjoyable. Players want to reinvest their earnings back into the ecosystem because it's just a fun game in general. They're not just trying to extract value. And we think that in order to do that over 5 years, the incentives to initially attract players is what is going to be valuable from the play to earn rewards. And as far as it goes for incentivizing projects and developers, this adds back into it in that when a world has play to earn faucet access, it means that players can play the different games and experiences in that world and earn world token that's not put up by the project or development team themselves. It's basically that they've created what, you know, we collectively have seen as a great game experience, something that we think would be enjoyed thoroughly, even if it wasn't play to earn. And that's kind of the key, is make a great game experience that would be fun, even if you weren't earning world token. And then you throw world token on top and it just doubles it down. And the incentives there then become, if you're starting a community or you have a project, you're going to drive so many new eyes from the interconnected and cross-pollinated ecosystem of players that may be playing on other worlds. And if you're just spinning your world up, they may want to try it out, and they're earning from trying it out and playing. And then it comes back into as well, like, your ecosystem may have, or probably will have, spend mechanics for worlds. So if players are having a great time in your world, they're earning world token from playing the games and experiences, and they want to spend back into that ecosystem just because they're having a genuinely fun time, like you do with most games that you play that are not, Web3 crypto-backed tokens that you're earning. Then it creates the circular type of economy that we're wanting, where it's players spend, world owners earn, world owners give mechanics for players to continue to earn. And it goes from there, and that's how you can grow, I think, tremendous projects on the platform from a player base and user base standpoint. You can make humongous community because of access to the cross-pollinated player base. You're not just one game trying to get attention when there's nothing else. It's that there's many players already playing many worlds and will probably want to experience your world as well. And we see those upsides as the big incentive for play to earn, to draw players into a world, grow community, grow project. And I think that the systems we're going to do are still getting completely ironed out. As far as projects go, we want to make it fair and accessible. And ultimately, it's just really about reaffirming that player loop and just making great experiences.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I'll tell you that this was one of the points when I talked to Temp a couple of weeks ago that really hit home with me as a business operator. The way that I look at it is that you're essentially incentivizing quality development by providing them with a marketing budget. There's a lot of ways that you can try to get somebody into your game or into whatever it is that you're building. One of those ways is to pay them. And you guys are giving these developers incentive not just to create great experiences, because that's a requirement to participate in the project in the first place, but you're essentially saying that we're going to help you build out your player base and your ecosystem, and we're going to essentially give you that marketing budget to work with integrated into your environment. That, to me, when you look at the fact that 50% of the total allocation of World going forward after next week's airdrop is going to be focused on this engine. That makes me personally incredibly excited to see what innovations we're going to see built on top of NFT Worlds over the coming months and years. All right, let's keep going. So right now, rarity score is the only way to really value one NFT world over another, as it determines your staking and your airdrop allocations. But there's a lot of complexity to the other attributes of each world in terms of their resources and other functions. And so I guess I want to ask, are you willing, or can you speak to how these things might be used in the future as people are making decisions about buying one world over another?
Yeah, sure. The most immediate near term one is increased airdrop, increased staking payout. That's one that people have been aware of for a while. The other one is, and this is probably the bigger one for in-game and where it really comes into play with features, is when the NFT Worlds launcher is released. And for people who don't know what a launcher is, it's basically, for Minecraft, a game client that can pre-install a set of client-side mods for the player in order to change the baseline Minecraft experience. This is something many Minecraft projects in the past have done, but what that lets us do is it lets us create a unified player experience where all players have a standard set of working game mods installed, and therefore we can create cohesive experiences on top of these features for these worlds and give access to only those specific worlds that otherwise aren't possible in baseline Minecraft. And so that's really where a lot of the plan is in the future, is when the launcher and the game client comes online, we can start developing out like these unique one-of-one features, these rare features that aren't existing in Minecraft, into special perks and like gameplay considerations that those world owners can then choose to build off of, that other worlds may or may not have access to depending on features. As well as, I think we're going to do something around rarity in the future that rare worlds will possibly, and we're still considering this, will possibly get a higher priority and potential features in the game launcher, meaning they will likely have more players driven to them. Just because rare worlds being a higher a higher price in order to get into, is more or less in our eyes a project's admission towards intending to make something of value and really buying deeply into the ecosystem, and rewarding that we see as valuable. And if they're building a large project or a game on a very rare world and willing to do the spend upfront on that rare world for access, not only are the features going to be really interesting and unique, but in exchange, we're wanting to give them a little bit of extra visibility where it makes sense and where it's fair, to potentially get greater access to the player ecosystem to grow. But again, that's not 100% solidified, and the implementation isn't 100% figured out, but these are how we're kind of thinking of these things.
It's incredibly interesting. And making sure that you put the asterisk next to that, he's not promising that this is a feature and that it's going to be designed this way, but you're getting an early understanding of at least what's on their minds right now, which is really, really cool. All right.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
More thing. I mean, what we want to say is there's more to it than just kind of like the clout of having a special feature, right? We're gonna be sure that we make it worthwhile to have a rare world, whatever form that comes in.
Great. So. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the launcher. So you guys are close to releasing that. That's going to, potentially, at least in one shape or form, bring together all the experiences that are created on NFT Worlds into a single place. But beyond that, though, what are the options for worlds to connect to one another in a more dynamic way? Do you view these 10,000 worlds as an interconnected metaverse, so to speak?
Yeah. I promise Temp is answering the next question, so if it seems like we're talking a little bit. But so with the launcher, like sort of what I was touching on in the last question, we can pre-install client-side mods and change the game experience. As far as what it's bringing to start as a baseline is the look and feel of Minecraft that people know, where it's very blocky, it's low res. That will not be the case in NFT Worlds. There's a video on our Twitter from back in December where we previewed kind of like the updated custom shaders, the graphic quality, the higher resolution, everything that is just default in the launcher. And what the launcher will install by default. So that would be the baseline game experience for everyone running off of that. And it significantly improves just the visual look, feel, and experience for players as a start. There's other mods as well. The launcher gives us the ability to, in-game, instead of right now, as you've probably seen with our pay demos, you get a little link in chat, you click it within the game, and it pops you out to the pay page. And that's where you complete your transaction to purchase something with World Token, and you come back in game and you have it. The launcher gives us the ability to bake in a wallet right into the launcher for managing your World Token, and this is really important for new players, as they wouldn't need a MetaMask. They just install the NFT Worlds game client / launcher. They sign in with their account, which using Microsoft sign in, which is how we access your Minecraft account details and stuff. And then a wallet's just created on the fly behind the scenes and secured. Whenever they get World Token payout, it goes right into their launcher wallet. They can see their balance, they can see their transactions. And when they want to spend World in game, it's just as simple as a little pop-up that's confirm or reject the transaction. You don't have to bounce out of the game anymore, and it's much faster. That's one of the key things as well. And then, yeah, touching more on like the features and whatnot, like I had said, we have the ability to bake in custom functionality around client-side mods that support features for specific worlds and whatnot. On the interconnected side, so yeah, I think that in the last few days, I've done a few interviews and people are really talking about like NFT Worlds taking the approach of like Ready Player One and the Oasis, and now there's all these interconnected like playable worlds and stuff, and the from Ready Player One, for those of you who know the movie or the book. And I think it's true. We've always had the intention of a deep set of interconnected networks between worlds, where world owners can, using the portals mechanic that will be released pretty soon, just create very quick ways to have players bounce between another world using portals that world owners can create. So let's say I make a world that's a hub to like the top 10 FPS worlds, like first person shooter worlds that people might want to play and earn on. And they just pop into my hub and they can see what other players are doing, maybe find like a group of people they want to go play with. They just all walk through a portal and now they're in the world for whatever first person shooter they wanted to play. And you can build upon that basic mechanic in pretty much any way that you want as a world owner. Like our goal with these things and making interconnectivity is to give the baseline tools and not try and create a rigid experience, but give the flexibility for the implementation to be up to the end world owners, and see what they come up with and see kind of how like the natural organic growth of the interconnected worlds in that system evolve.
It's incredibly interesting, the parallel to Ready Player One. Even though it's one of my favorite books, I'd never really made the parallel to the idea of, sort of being in one world and then porting to another and porting to another. And that really is, to an extent, how I've been talking about NFT Worlds. And so very excited to be able to see the portal functionality when that comes out, and the implications of projects really starting to work together and to partner with one another and to create features and functionality that might even overlap each other as some of these things get expanded. Eventually we're going to have thousands and thousands of really talented developers and artists that are working on this platform. It's not hard to imagine what it could evolve into over a relatively short period of time. All right, let's talk a little bit about something that's on the minds of almost every person that buys NFTs. So in the last week and a half or so, the floor price for NFT Worlds has gone up spectacularly. How has that made you both feel, and what impact, if any, does that have on the way that you now look at the project and your roadmap compared to a couple weeks or a couple months ago?
Well, we do kind of monitor the floor price between each other, but it's not something we focus on very heavily. It's really validating to see it go up and up and up. But in the end, we're just going to continue, with our organic growth motto. We're not going to really change our roadmap. We're just going to focus on delivering a product that we feel is really fun and people want to use. And I think that's just the key to our success. We just make cool stuff that people want to play, and it's being validated.
Makes a lot of sense. That's the answer that I personally, if I were listening to this, would really want to hear. It's actually kind of rare in the NFT space to see founders put out a roadmap and then execute on it the way that you guys have. You really encompass this whole concept of under promise and over deliver, and just delighting and surprising holders consistently with what you're doing and how fast you're doing it. And I've noticed that. That was actually to some extent why I finally took the time to really dig into the documentation, is I just saw these announcements after announcements. And I was like, wow, these guys are really developing, they're innovating. And excited to hear that, of course, you guys are going to continue to have that mentality. So talking about a roadmap, have you ever considered publishing something a little more formal about what's coming, not just in terms of technical features, but where you see the project going from a marketing perspective, a holder perspective? What can you share with us for plans for the coming months and then longer term for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I can speak on that. I think our original roadmap, it's funny because I feel like we build so fast and there's so many ancillary things that we're developing on top to build the features and support that developers need, that we sometimes do not get our roadmap perfectly up to date all the time when we're building stuff, just because it's like, oh, we need to knock this out in like 3 days, let's get it done now. And it's like not necessarily reflected on the roadmap at the current time, but it's important. But like our original vision for the V1 roadmap sort of thing is it's almost done. It's basically build the platform for developers and world owners to start making interconnected experiences with play to earn, transacting, and being able to bring in NFT communities and verify those NFTs and give custom perks and, access based on holdings and whatnot across communities. And I think around April of this year, we'll probably come out with a very thorough 2.0 roadmap that's looking like a year or two ahead, and how we are intending for the ecosystem to be developed. I think intending is the key word, because everything we do it's trying to be done in a very fluid standpoint, where we're really gauging the community feedback, the developer feedback, watching very closely the direction that everything is going from a development standpoint of world owners and builders. And we want to make sure that we're fostering the right evolution of that, in the sense that it gets to that point where we have a player base of 500,000, 1 million daily active players or more, and that the systems for that to be possible are in place and supported and being considered in the roadmap. I think too, Temp talked about marketing in the last question, roadmaps, they sometimes include marketing and whatnot. We're not against the idea of it in the future as we start to really want to bring in players, but we've never wanted to hype a project just for the sake of hyper visibility or use influencers to shill. We think that the product's development and just the intrinsic value that we're trying to create for this ecosystem, and it has been enough at this point to create quite a bit of visibility, but we think that will probably continue. And again, it's fluid. We'll take our time as we go through things.
And we don't want to outpace our ability to handle players, right? Like if we started marketing this thing really heavily, our survival multiplayer queue might be 50,000 people instead of 2,000 waiting in line for 8 hours to get in. So we just don't want it to outpace the server network that we can support players on.
I think it's closer to 4,000 or 5,000 now. It's to the point where we're about ready to launch something to upgrade the number of players that can play on that. But the rate at which regular Minecraft players are finding this and wanting to spending hours in a queue to wait to play is insane, and it's kind of mind blowing to us.
Yeah, it's shocking.
It's been a lot of fun to watch from the outside, I'll tell you that. And I've actually had a lot of discussions with developers lately about capacity for these worlds, and I've personally been really excited that in doing research for my White Sands project, that these worlds really can handle tremendous numbers of people, especially if you use instancing technology and you have the right server support and otherwise. And when you look at massive multiplayer games like World of Warcraft or otherwise, and you look at the number of people that are supported at any given time on a server, it feels like that's going to be more than possible with what you guys are doing here. And of course, the test server that you've created with 4,000 or 5,000, it was never designed to be used by 50,000. And so
exactly.
As long as there's some deliberate decisions that happen up front and you're able to scale accordingly, but the fact that it's possible means that we really will hopefully start to see just tremendous experiences with potentially thousands, tens of thousands of people interacting. And I'm sure you guys will continue to innovate on the side side of supporting developers in that way?
Yeah. I mean, to the scale part, we already have a very strong idea of how we're going to support, 5, 10,000 plus players in a world. Just to speak on it to anyone that may know, there's this idea of sharding, which is where you distribute a single server's load across many servers in the Minecraft ecosystem. It's something that's been relatively undeveloped, but we have a team internally that is on the bleeding edge of it and has like proof of concept production working stuff for this, supporting thousands of players already on a single world. And so they're going to be, able to offer this technology to any massive, like basically enterprise scale worlds that have 10,000 plus many players that they need to support in a single world instance. And that's, how we're going to see that crazy scale there.
Well, it's funny to me. There's a misconception in the space when you look at an NFT world. You see the little 3D square image and you think, well, that's the world that I'm buying. And people don't quite grasp the concept yet, I think, at least on a broader basis, that is a snapshot of an incredibly small portion of the overall world. And each NFT world is massive. It's almost incomprehensible, the size of these compared to other major metaverse options like Sandbox or Decentraland. And so, when you talk about creating experiences on these worlds, you can create a lot of content, tremendous amounts of content, even comparable to major, AAA games for a single one of these worlds. And that, at least for me, makes me incredibly excited to think about just the sheer amount of quality content that could be built with these initial 10,000.
Yeah, and just to speak to size, what you're seeing, like Adam said, is that the NFT image itself is just a preview area. That's about 1/50,000th of the actual size of the world. So multiply what you're seeing by about 50,000, and that's relatively the scale you're going to get. So yeah.
I'm sure behind all these microphones, you just had a bunch of heads exploding at that number. But it's just amazing to think about, especially when you actually know that, you look at that 1/50,000th and you see, the little town or, the cave or whatever it is. And then you think about the scale of, an avatar that's walking around. I mean, even the small preview is potentially an entire world to go and explore. And there's just a lot of potential. But in the interest of time, let's keep going. So let's talk a little bit about your PFPs. There's a lot of speculation about how the Gray Boys value should be tied to NFT Worlds because they come from the same founding team that's just been executing one day after another. Other than building a world for that project, which, by the way, I've experienced myself, it's fantastic. Do you see other integrations in the future or reasons why somebody specifically should be holding both?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I know there's probably a lot of Gray Boys in here waiting for us to announce or say things about the Gray Boys. But I do want to say sorry to our Gray Boys. I know some of our deliverables have been a little slow since we've been working on NFT Worlds, but we have some awesome stuff coming. And like our mothership game right now, which is a shooter arena, is dependent on the world layer being finished. So that's kind of slowing it down. So there's always going to be some connection in the the development realm. But as far as like literal crossover, we want to keep the two projects separate from like an operational standpoint because we want to be able to do some things in Gray Boys that might not be policy for NFT Worlds. So like using marketing as an example, we might want to flip the switch on marketing for Gray Boys and do some like inorganic marketing where we don't really have plans to do that for NFT Worlds. So in a sense, we do want to keep them separate in that way. As far as like the perks of having a Gray Boy in the NFT world space, I mean, we're going to uphold our promise of the Gray Boys will be the first playable avatar in the NFT world space. When the launcher comes out, you'll be able to select your Gray Boy and enter the world using that skin. So that's still going to happen. And we also have a avatar system that we're going to announce pretty soon.
Are you there?
Tampa, I think you might have hit the.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you hit me.
Oh, sorry. I bumped my mute button. Yeah, we have one more system that we're going to announce pretty soon in the Discord here. So the Gray Boys will be part of that.
That's exciting. We can all use our imagination. All right. A lot of people ask me every day, I mean, I probably get, I don't know, 10, 20 of these messages every day where they say, should I buy a world or should I buy a world token? And without treating this as an ask for investment advice, nobody's asking you to provide investment advice that they're going to hold you to. But what are the things that you think folks should consider when evaluating this decision? And are you willing to share which one you think is a better play right now? I'm grasping at straws there. Maybe we'll just let you guys give your overall thoughts.
Yeah, this is a tough one. From a legal standpoint, the world token is an in-game token, so we can't directly talk to its value. So I'll kind of leave that one.
Fair enough. All right. There's speculation about a number of partnerships in the space right now. We saw RTFKT buy Worlds. We've seen major projects buy Worlds. Anything that you guys can share about the impact of what this might have on holders once formally announced?
Yeah, Artifact is an exciting one. We have, for those of you who do not know, we have about, it's either close to or as a few days ago, over 100 NFT projects individually that have publicly announced they're actively in the process of building World for their communities. We probably have 50 to 100 others that are unannounced publicly, that are privately in like a stealth mode going to announce so that having a world built. I think the important thing here is some of these projects are really large, some of them are really small, but with all of them being built in the NFT Worlds ecosystem, what I think we're going to see is this flood of the members from all of these communities coming into one ecosystem and this very strong cross-pollination effect, where the phrase, you've probably heard it, that a rising tide raises all boats, is probably going to come into play here, where the communities building in NFT Worlds are going to get exposure significantly from members of many other NFT communities in this growing ecosystem. And I think that this is probably going to further entrench both network effects, our moat, our ability to be seen as the number one platform where everyone's playing and everyone's building their metaverses. And I think that's just a positive upside for everyone at that point.
No doubt. Well, I've only got one more question for you guys, and then we're going to open it up to anybody else in the community that would like to ask you guys something. What are the projects that you guys are most excited about right now that are building on NFT Worlds, and anything that you guys want to share about them?
Yeah, I mean, we it's unfair to give any, I think, a specific call out and special treatment here. But like any project that's making really interesting or exciting gameplay mechanics and they're integrating World Token either from like a earn spend standpoint, or from an earn spend standpoint, excuse me, are really exciting to us. Like these fantastic gameplay experiences that we've been demoed, that we're seeing from various projects, like we know people are going to really enjoy them because just in playing them without the play to earn layer, like Temp and I, or just I, depending on which demo we're talking about, have spent hours playing with these creators who have made these really fun game modes. And when you add in that, like hundreds of players to thousands of players on these game modes with play to earn and spend mechanics, it's just going to, I think, be ballistic. But yeah, all the ones that are doing things along those lines, we're really excited about, and like we can't wait to see everything that people come up with, from play to earn to some are building learn to earn, and it's just exciting in general.
For me, seeing projects that are using the World Token to mint their NFTs, I really like that idea. It's really cool to see people embracing the World Token, and then also servers that are going to be implementing like a player-to-player trading systems or auction houses. I'm really excited to see that happen.
All right. Well, thank you guys for answering all of my questions. I know some of those were a little deeper than the standard fluff questions that you might get, but you guys did just a tremendous job, as you always do, of articulating the value and helping us to understand things that otherwise might be very technically complicated. So with that said, let's open it up. I'm just going to start picking folks that are requesting and calling you up here to chat, and let's see how we do. So Kush 11, I'm going to bring you on up here. And so
a good one to start with.
All right. So Kush, it says you're connecting and you should be good to speak in just a moment.
Hey.
Go for it.
Hey, this is Kush. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Great to be here. CyberKong's Wall Street Chat minted you guys at free price, and I've been holding ever since. Been really happy to just see the growth. That's been amazing. And I guess my question is longevity. I think you see a lot of different chats, and it's happening in Wall Street Kongs of, what are the legs for this? Like, is it sustainable? Is it going to last? Where do you guys see this, 5 years from now? Where we're going to be going? Is it going to be the same technology, or is it going to advance? I'd love to just, hear about that.
Yeah, I can touch on that one, and maybe Temp has some thoughts too.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the key thing here is that we want to create, and this is something any game or metaverse is going to have to deal with, create the sustainable ecosystem from a playability standpoint over time. One that can self-sustain past that 5-year timeline for play to earn rewards like we talked about. The other thing too is, like, when we look at many other metaverse games that are being made, those games are kind of single game ecosystems. And the thing is with, like, their token and their perks is ultimately games are a thrive and die sort of thing. Historically, single games are often like that. Like, right, they have a few years of glory and they often kind of patter out. An exception probably being Minecraft historically, but in this context, I'm speaking more to the fact that when you have an ecosystem that are many games, many worlds, many experiences that are constantly being developed, there's new content always being released. We can look back to the Roblox model, for example, of this. It continues to keep players engaged. It continues to keep bringing them back because they're in a familiar space where they're always getting new enjoyable content. And as far as, like, our roadmap goes, it's really just, it is heavily focused on sustainability in the long term. Like, how do we make this the most frictionless metaverse platform for anyone, any project to create a metaverse that's interconnected, that gives them access to the community and the player ecosystem in a way that otherwise they'd have to do all the marketing, figure out all the stuff as far as growing player base and visibility themselves. And how do we make that system just a self-perpetuating flywheel? And that's really, how we're thinking about this.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up Jiro here. And Jiro, you should be good to go in a couple of seconds here.
Hey guys, long-time listener, first-time caller. Happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course.
Arkev, big fan. I've been catching a lot of your interviews lately, and Temp, same with you. Great work, guys. Two-part question. The first, would love to understand, a little bit more about the vision you guys have for the marketplace that I'm sure we'll see down the road. And then an easy one here. Maybe can you speak a little bit more to the size of each of the NFT world? We've heard some comparisons to Sandbox and DCL. Would love to really kind of understand that and maybe connectivity between different worlds. But thank you.
Temp, do you want to talk to the size and I can talk to the marketplace?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
You can start with size if you want. Sounds good. It's up to you.
I mean, the exact size is kind of unimportant because it's such a vast amount of space that it's not something that you would ever be able to utilize. And if you were to build some sort of structure or gaming experience like that utilized the entire size of the map, it would be like abysmally large. So I don't think the size of an NFT world is a limiting factor in any way. So it's not something that you would really need to put a hard number on it. And I think that's why we developed that graphic that was like, showing the NFT world next to the Sandbox and Decentraland. Just the point of that wasn't really to give you like a number for size, just to show you like how insanely large it is. So the exact size is like what, 60,000 by 60,000 blocks?
I believe it's 16 million by 16 million.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, it's irrelevant.
The preview area you see is about 380 by 380. So,
yeah, I mean, without like some sort of transportation or portal system, like a player could never physically walk from one end to the other. It would just take forever.
Yep. And then I can speak to the marketplace. So I think that like this idea of economy and player economy is really important for the future. And as players bounce in between games, they're likely going to want to be exchanging items as they hop into new games, or other players hop into the games that maybe a player listing an item was in prior. And so just giving basically like a global auction house for worlds that are supporting items via NFTs, and that auction house being this marketplace DApp that we make, is a way to buy and sell items that work for different functionality and utility in specific NFT worlds, and using the world token as the medium of exchange for that is where we really want to see things going. And from there, it's more just like we'll launch the initial version in the future and feel it out and see how players are using it, see how players are exchanging with one another, see how worlds are minting NFT items using our Polygon gasless layer, and iterate it a little bit to make sure that it's meeting that goal of ours of sustainable economy.
Awesome. Love it. Guys, keep up the great work, and thank you for today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
All right. Let's bring up Mazer. I see a cool cat there. I'm sorry, not a cool cat, a gutter cat. My goodness.
You call yourself an influencer?
Oh, my goodness. All right, Mazer, you should be good to go.
Maybe AFK? Not sure.
I don't know. All right. We can.
Connecting.
Oh, I think he's trying.
He's trying. I see the spinny.
All right. Well, Mazer, we'll come back to you. I'll leave you as a speaker. But for right now, why don't we bring up EV Dog? EV Dog, you should be good if you come off mute.
How's it going, guys? Yeah, I've been watching the NFT Worlds project since you guys minted, and I unfortunately didn't have the ETH at the time to acquire one. And I have two questions, if that's okay. I was wondering if you guys could outline how you're going to be allowing the world owners to divvy up the property. I know you guys mentioned that there's going to be renting of that land, and I was wondering if you guys could explain that just a little bit before I get to my other question.
Yeah, I can touch on that from both usage and technical standpoint. So different communities and different implementations are wanting to give players the ability to kind of develop and use land for their use cases within their world. So what we're going to see, and there's some projects in here that are already starting to work on this, is players may end up purchasing access to specific areas of land using just world token, and the world server for that world associates ownership. Some worlds are probably going to go a little farther and attach that to an NFT, where like a specific plot of land gives you ownership access of a specific a specific NFT gives you ownership access of a specific plot in the world. So there's many permutations of what you can do with world ownership. It's basically, or with land ownership, it's basically giving a fixed area to a player, and they are the only ones that can develop it and do things. However, there's concerns, right, about the worlds being so humongously large, and if you do subdivision, it sort of floods like more supply of world of developable world areas into the market when there's only 10,000 NFT worlds. And I think the misconception here is that while you can do plot subdivision, only the world owner has access to the actual developed experiences and the gameplay mechanics and all of the different layers of economy and gameplay that can be developed for a world. Just by owning a plot, you don't get access to doing like the Java or JavaScript side development, depending on what platform you're developing using. And you don't have the ability to change the mechanics of the world. So, right, it's like, it's mainly, plot subdivision is mainly to give access of ownership to players within the context of whatever the use case is for a specific world, and not to give full access, because it would be impossible to just a small plot where you can then make a full game on. Like that's not how it's intended to work or will work.
I see. Yeah. So I mean, I've heard in multiple spaces, people talking about possibly splitting worlds and stuff. So that's not going to really be possible from a development standpoint. You're not going to be able to have two builds on the same world.
Yeah, I mean, you can do two builds from like a visual and design and like the actual like blocks placed themselves, but you couldn't do two builds from completely different game mechanics, where there's independent control by two different parties of the game mechanics for plots in the world, because those parties would then need shared access to the server layer and development of the Java or JavaScript side plugins and mods that are made for the game modes and the game mechanics, and it's just not really something that we think will happen.
Okay, fair enough. So to get to the question that I really wanted to ask, and I really want you Ark to put that into perspective for these people that don't quite understand what this is going to turn into. I mean, what are the capabilities of this world? I mean, I've heard many people say, well, yeah, it's a cool metaverse idea, Minecraft, but like there are going to be completely new types of games created on these worlds that we can't even imagine right now. I was wondering if you could put into perspective, the difference in what we are looking at now and what it's going to be in a few years. Like you were talking about first person shooters and all these other kind of game modes that are going to be developed. I was wondering if you could do give us a little perspective on that.
Yeah, I think one of the disconnects there is, unless you really understand the Minecraft ecosystem and have played in it, most people just see Minecraft as you run around, you break blocks, you build. But Minecraft has a very large, thriving, like custom game development ecosystem in it, and it really is, from the standpoint of like a platform, it is a game engine, and what you play in single player on Minecraft is just like the basis of that game engine. But you can make such extensive experiences and gameplay mechanics and gameplay modes from, if you look around on Google and search for like massive multiplayer RPG Minecraft servers or like first person shooter Minecraft servers, there's game modes that sprawl across every aspect of like traditional game mechanics that you can probably think of. And these are all built using like the custom server side code that, builders that have been doing these types of games for years and are they're verified Microsoft partners and have made the best of the best experiences already in the platform. And so these people are making humongous mechanic games that are nothing like base Minecraft, and are pretty much whatever their clients and these world owners are wanting to build, they're able to build. And they're able to do it very quickly relative to other game platforms, just because that ecosystem's been maturing for over a decade, and there's so much tooling, there's so much developer resource. And we're going to see some really crazy stuff, I think.
Thank you for your time, guys. I'll step down.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
All right. I'm going to give Mazer another shot here. Add as a speaker. Mazer,
Hey, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Well done.
So sorry about that. I got rugged earlier.
No worries.
Thanks for having me up, guys. This is a really awesome project. I've been in it since the floor was 0.16, and my girlfriend's a pretty big Twitch streamer, and she streams a lot of Minecraft, and I showed her I got this, and she's like, "That's stupid." She's very web too, so she'll come around. But what I wanted to ask was, I'm building a project that's like very film based. We're called Block of Horror, but I'm wondering if you guys are like there's I guess with like Sandbox, Central, and any kind of metaverse project, are there any like sort of mods or expansion elements that you think you guys may see will be like really cool in Minecraft and will want to maybe help develop, that will, I guess in a sense, help other people with experiences, I guess in a sense, to I guess help build more of like a metaverse experience on top of Minecraft, if that makes sense, like video streaming or anything like that.
Yeah, totally. So like custom audio and stuff like that is very possible in Minecraft. There's ways people have done video streaming in Worlds, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that. And then from like a getting off the ground standpoint, our development team on the like server side is already tasked with a bunch of different plugins and mods that we think are going to be valuable just off the shelf for either world owners that want to do themselves or builders that want to start from a specific like baseline type of game experience. For example, a first-person shooter, maybe an RPG with a quest system, or like if you want a merchant that can transact items for worlds, stuff like that. We're just going to offer as much frictionless off-the-shelf baseline gameplay mechanics as we can and make them in such a way that it's easy for people to build on top of to create the experiences that they're visioning.
And that's one great thing about our SMP server is we're testing out a lot of those things and developing a lot of those things during the chaos of the SMP server, but eventually it will trickle down into all server owners.
That's really awesome. That answers my question. I'm very excited to see what you guys have to put out there, and looking forward to building some more. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for listening.
All right. We're coming up on the hour, but let's get a couple more in here if you guys have the time for it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm good.
Let's bring up Snowed. I'm going to add you as a speaker. I'm picking these pretty randomly, guys. We have a lot of requests, so we're definitely not going to get to everybody, but doing my best to spread out the love here.
It's all good.
All right, Snowed, you should be good if you come off mute.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you, guys. You're so nice, and thank you for inviting me to the stage. Actually, I and myself and my son are eventually big fan of Minecraft. So actually, I got two short questions. First of all, what kind of gap or technical gap did you set there to like pairing or mapping the Minecraft world on chain? So actually, that's a question I didn't really understand. Since you are on my watch list, actually you are already on my watch list for already 1 month. And the second question is actually there's two like decentralized form of online gaming platforms. So one is Minecraft, the other one is Roblox. Roblox is also super famous all over the world. So why did you choose Minecraft, not Roblox? So that's those two questions.
Sure. Yeah, so like interconnecting and pairing worlds on chain. This kind of goes, I think, from if I'm understanding, goes back to the portal mechanics that we're going to be developing. There will be smart contracts that allow us to do the mapping between which worlds are linked. Those are not deployed yet, but they are intended, and that gives a way for both dApps and our own internal tooling to be able to visualize the interconnectionness of the network beyond just like a server portal to server portal. So that will be coming, and that's how we're going to map that on chain. And then as far as picking Minecraft, like Roblox is another great platform for sure. I think that from my personal experience, I have played significantly more Minecraft and am very understanding and aware of the capabilities from the development platform side. From doing custom servers and mods here and there over the last decade in my spare time. And it just felt like a good fit. I think that Roblox has some good aspects as well. However, the way that Roblox is structured already with heavy incentives on the developer ecosystem, and I think they're probably a little bit more locked down as far as policy goes, from my understanding. Seeing Minecraft and seeing large projects that have thrived in the past, building these large scale implementations, Hypixel Skyblocks and just the Hypixel ecosystem is a great example. They have tens to almost 100,000 players a day on just a regular Minecraft server, and they've been allowed to operate and commercialize for almost a decade now, I think, or a very long time. It just felt like the friendly, familiar ecosystem, and we knew that everything we wanted to do is possible, and we can do it quickly from the experience in the background to get the metaverse, or the metaverse of metaverses that we wanted to provide to everyone.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right. Kate Irwin, let's bring you up. It says connecting.
Hey guys.
Should be good.
How's it going? I'm a writer for Decrypt, and I have discovered your project, and I think it's really cool. I had a couple quick questions. First, I was wondering if you've spoken with anyone at Minecraft or Microsoft about NFT Worlds, and My second question is, what do you think makes NFT Worlds better than regular Minecraft?
Sure, I can answer this one. So yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier. But we are in contact with the Microsoft IP enforcement team. So it's specifically the team that like determines whether or not people are avoiding the EULA or not. And then, sorry, what was the second question?
Yeah, it was, what do you think makes NFT Worlds better than regular Minecraft?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, regular Minecraft, the whole experience is held within a single server, and NFT Worlds just takes that one step further with the interconnection of the entire multiplayer experience. So NFT Worlds is the layer on top of Minecraft that is what gives it its real value.
Yeah, and that I think that layer two, that includes economy that are cross-server compatible. That includes ecosystems, playability, interconnected community. It's the whole thing of like this ethos of what is a metaverse is interconnected community, interconnected economy, and then player ownership instead of, ownership represented within the context of a centralized game server. And we're making the glue and the layers to make all of this possible, and we're seeing these game experiences made using these layers, and that's where I think the value that we're providing comes.
All right, let's bring Yannick up, and then we're probably going to have to wind this down. Yannick, you should be good to go. Looks like you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We
Awesome.
can.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Well,
I'm very excited for this project. I do have a question. Can you guys talk a little bit more about the rarity, like resources and unique features, and how they can potentially be used in gameplay for a world owner and also from a player perspective?
Yeah, I can touch on this. So the rarity, resources, and features, this ties back to when well, first off, in the immediate term, it ties back to the airdrop and staking, but that's, I think, besides your question. When we launched the custom game client and launcher for NFT Worlds, we're able to create additional mods and features on top of the baseline Minecraft and give access to that stuff to these specific worlds with these specific features, such that they can make unique experiences that other worlds may not have access to. And the other side, too, is, again, this is not concreted, but we're potentially going to give rare worlds, just because it's more of a tip from the people that buy in, that they're more invested in developing something great for the ecosystem when they're buying a more rare world, presumably. Those will likely get more exposure to player base within the launcher of the game client, but that's not 100% solidified, and we obviously want to keep a fair level of access to the player visibility in the ecosystem via the game launcher everyone's using. But yeah, those are probably the two immediate things, but we do intend to continue to develop on the features, the rarity beyond that in the near, medium, and far future. It comes into play in many different ways that we're still thinking about.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Ark, Temp, thank you both so much for investing this time with us and going through these questions. I think I speak for everyone when I say we're just incredibly excited and bullish about what you all are building.